Good day, everyone. Today, I will be presenting about Rule 6, Safe Speed, which is one of the most essential navigation rules under the international regulations for preventing collisions at sea, CALREGs. To understand its importance, let's take a quick look at the foundation behind it. The International Maritime Organization, IMO, is a specialized agency of the United Nations, responsible for the safety, security, and environmental protection of international shipping, while the International Labor Organization, ILO, focuses on setting labor standards and ensuring the rights, welfare, and working conditions of seafarers worldwide. To date, the IMO and ILO has adopted 69 international maritime conventions, which the IMO adopted 68 and ILO 1, and Malaysia has ratified 31 of them, showing our strong commitment to maritime safety and international standards. Among these, the Convention on the International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea 1972 stands out as one of the most crucial and was entered into force internationally on July 15, 1977. CALREG Article 4 has stated that the convention comes into force 12 months after at least 15 states, whose merchant fleets make up at least 65% of the world fleet by number or tonnage of vessels over 100 GT, have become parties, but not before January 1, 1976. Malaysia later ratified the convention and entered into force on the same day, which is December 23, 1980, officially applying these universal rules to our waters and vessels. Besides, amendment has also been done as stated as MSN November 2023. Hence, under Section 81 of the Merchant Shipping Ordinance 1952, ship owners must ensure that these legislations and publications are readily accessible on board. Failure to comply constitutes an offense and, upon conviction, can result in a fine of up to 25,000 ringgit per ship. Rule 6 Safe Speed states that every vessel shall at all times proceed at a safe speed so that she can take proper and effective action to avoid collision and be stopped within a distance appropriate to the prevailing circumstances and conditions. The meaning is simple, in which every vessel must travel at a speed that allows it to stop or maneuver safely if danger arises. This is not a fixed speed limit. What's safe depends entirely on current conditions. Mariners must use their judgment to continuously evaluate and adjust speed. Imagine a large tanker approaching a narrow harbor. Even with advanced radar or GPS, if it's going too fast, it won't have enough time or distance to stop. Safe speed ensures control, safety, and time to react, which is the foundation of good seamanship. In determining a safe speed, the following factors shall be among those taken into account. A. By all vessels. 1. The state of visibility. Poor visibility due to fog, heavy rain, or darkness makes it harder to spot other vessels or hazards. When visibility decreases, the vessel must reduce speed so that it can stop or turn within the visible range. For example, a cargo ship sailing in dense fog must slow down until conditions improve. 2. The traffic density, including concentrations of fishing vessels or any other vessels. High concentrations of fishing vessels, ferries, or ships in port approaches mean less maneuvering space. Safe speed should always be slower in heavy traffic areas to allow more reaction time. For example, in the busy waters of the Malacca Strait, vessels must reduce speed to avoid close encounters. 3. The maneuverability of vessel with special reference to stopping distance and turning ability in the prevailing conditions. This refers to how easily the vessel can turn or stop. Large or heavily loaded ships require longer distances to stop, so they must maintain lower speeds, especially in confined waters. For example, a fully loaded tanker cannot stop quickly. Therefore, it must proceed cautiously in narrow channels. 4. At night, the presence of background light such as from shore lights or from backscatter of her own lights. At night, shore lights, harbor lights, or reflections can cause confusion and make it difficult to distinguish navigation lights of other vessels. Reducing speed allows the crew to identify targets more accurately and avoid misjudgment. For example, near coastal cities, reduced speed helps officers clearly distinguish between navigation lights and background lights. 5. The state of wind, sea and current, and the proximity of navigational hazards. Rough seas, strong currents, or nearby reefs can affect control. A safe speed must account for these natural forces, since they can push a vessel off course. For example, in strong cross currents, a slower speed allows better control when approaching port entrances. 6. The draft in relation to the available depth of water. When a vessel's draft is close to the water depth, her ability to maneuver becomes limited. Maintaining a slower speed helps prevent grounding and reduces the hydrodynamic squat effect. For example, a ship entering a shallow harbor must reduce speed to avoid hitting the seabed. An officer in charge of the watch shall comply with Rule 6A and reduce the vessel's speed in the aforementioned conditions. Additionally, by vessels with operational radar. 1. The characteristics, efficiency, and limitations of the radar equipment. The navigator must know how accurate the radar is and its blind spots. Safe speed must reflect the limitations of radar detection, especially in rough weather. For example, small fishing boats may not appear clearly on radar, especially in heavy rain or rough seas. 2. Any constraints imposed by the radar range scale in use. Using the wrong radar range can miss close objects. For example, if the radar is set to a long range, a nearby vessel might not appear until it's dangerously close, so the ship should slow down. 3. The effect on radar detection of the sea state, weather, and other sources of interference. High waves or heavy rain can cause radar clutter. When radar picture quality decreases, it is essential to slow down and use visual lookout as support. For example, during heavy rainfall, slowing down allows officers more time to interpret unclear radar images accurately. 4. The possibility that small vessels, ice, and other floating objects may not be detected by radar at an adequate range. Small boats or some floating objects might not appear on radar. Hence, maintaining a moderate speed allows time to spot and avoid such hazards visually. For example, icebergs might not be detected by radar since it will divert wavelengths. 5. The number, location, and movement of vessels detected by radar. A radar showing multiple moving targets indicates dense traffic. The more vessels detected, the slower the speed should be to ensure enough room for maneuvering. For example, in busy waters near Port Klang, reducing speed allows more time to track several vessels shown on radar. 6. The more exact assessment of the visibility that may be possible when radar is used to determine the range of vessels or other objects in the vicinity. Radar can measure distances accurately, helping determine how far other vessels are. If radar confirms limited visibility, speed must be reduced accordingly. For example, at night in light rain, an officer slows down when radar shows targets fading, indicating reduced visibility. Rule 6 is not a standalone regulation. It works closely with several other rules of the road that reinforce its purpose. First, Rule 5, Lookout, stated that every vessel shall at all times maintain a proper lookout by sight and hearing as well as by all available means appropriate in the prevailing circumstances and conditions so as to make a full appraisal of the situation and of the risk of collision. A proper lookout provides the information needed to decide what speed is safe. Without awareness, even a slow vessel can be unsafe. Besides, Rule 7a, Risk of collision, also stated every vessel shall use all available means appropriate to the prevailing circumstances and conditions to determine if risk of collision exists. If there is any doubt, such risk shall be deemed to exist. Once a risk is detected, a vessel should slow down to ensure more reaction time. Moreover, Rule 8e, Action to avoid collision, has stated if necessary to avoid collision or allow more time to assess the situation, a vessel shall slacken her speed or take all way off by stopping or reversing her means of propulsion. It shows maintaining a safe speed in the first place gives the officer enough time to take actions when danger appears. In addition, Rule 19b, Restricted visibility, has stated every vessel shall proceed at a safe speed, adapted to the prevailing circumstances and conditions of restricted visibility. A power-driven vessel shall have her engines ready for immediate maneuver. This rule directly repeats the safe speed requirement, reminding ships to proceed at a speed adapted to fog or darkness. The principle of safe speed under Rule 6 of the International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea, CALREGS, is not only an international requirement, but is also enforceable under Malaysian law through several provisions in the Merchant Shipping Ordinance 1952. For example, Section 251(1), Local Rules for Navigation in Ports. This section stated the minister may make rules concerning lights and signals to be carried, or the steps for avoiding collision to be taken, by vessels navigating the waters of any port, river, or other inland navigation, and those rules shall, as regards vessels navigating the said waters, be of the same force as if they were part of the collision regulations. While 2 has mentioned that any master of any vessel who fails to comply with any of such rules shall for each offense be liable to a fine not exceeding 1,000 ringgit. As an example, Penang Port Circular No. February 2008 has stated all vessels shall navigate at safe speed and in no case exceed 12 knots. Vessels navigating within 300 meters of wharves or other mooring structures shall not exceed 8 knots. The following one is Section 252, Collision Regulations. 1. The minister may by order make regulations for the prevention of collisions at sea, and may thereby regulate the lights to be carried and exhibited, the fog signals to be carried and used, and the steering and sailing rules to be observed by ships, and those regulations in this ordinance referred to as the collision regulations shall have effect as if enacted in this ordinance. 2. The collision regulations, together with the provisions of this part relating thereto, or otherwise relating to collisions, shall be observed by all vessels upon the high seas and in all connected therewith and navigable by sea-going vessels. 3. Any master of any vessel who fails to comply with any of the said regulations shall for each offense be liable to a fine not exceeding 10,000 ringgit. This ensures that all vessels navigating Malaysian waters must legally maintain a safe speed consistent with international standards. The Merchant Shipping Collision Regulations, Order 1984 PU, A. 438/1984 is amended in the schedule based on the amendment of the Merchant Shipping Collision Regulations, Amendment, Order 2000 and the Merchant Shipping Collision Regulations, Amendment, Order 2023 as mentioned in MSN November 2023. Lastly, Section 300, Sending unseaworthy ship to sea an offense. 1. Any person who sends or attempts to send, or is party to sending or attempting to send, a British, Malayan, or foreign ship to sea from any port in the Federation in such an unseaworthy state that the life of any person is likely to be thereby endangered shall be guilty of an offense, unless he proves either that he used all reasonable means to ensure her being sent to sea in a seaworthy state, or that her going to sea in such an unseaworthy state was under the circumstances reasonable and justifiable. 4. An offense under this section shall be punishable with a fine not exceeding 20,000 ringgit, or with imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years, or to both. A vessel operated at an unsafe speed beyond its design or equipment capability could effectively be deemed unseaworthy because such operation compromises safety. Maintaining a safe speed is not just a regulation, it's a duty of care. Many real-world maritime accidents have been caused by excessive speed. For example, the MSC Chitra and MV Kaligya 3 collision in 2010 near Mumbai occurred because one ship failed to slow in congested waters. Similarly, a speedboat accident off Thailand's Koh Samui in 2016 and the tugboat George M collision with MSC Aquarius in 2022 were linked to unsafe speed under poor conditions. These incidents remind us that a few knots too fast can cause millions in damage and cost lives. Maintaining a safe speed is crucial for overall maritime safety as it helps prevent collisions, minimize damage, and enhance crew reaction time. By adjusting speed according to visibility, traffic, and environmental conditions, ships can detect and respond to hazards more effectively, reducing the risk of accidents. Operating at a safe speed also limits the impact force during emergencies, protecting the vessel, crew, and marine environment. In short, maintaining a safe speed allows safer navigation, quicker decision-making, and better protection for both people and the sea. In conclusion, Rule 6, Safe Speed, is the heart of collision prevention. It teaches that safety depends on judgment, awareness, and discipline. No matter the technology, weather, or ship type, the safe speed is always the one that allows the vessel to stay in control.
Thank you for watching.